I built this playbook because this is what I wish I had when I ran my business. I wish I had someone like me that is a fractional partner that is not here to tell me how to do my job, but is here to tell me what is the more interesting business to build, or what is the most profitable version of my businesses, and then let me do my job.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Liquid Launch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan, alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, today's conversation is going to be powerful. And audience members, our guest focuses on companies doing 2 to 20 million. So if you're washing your car, turn off the hose, you're listening to the radio, you turn it off. I need you to focus for 30 minutes because this is going to change your business. Today on the podcast, we have Yarin Gaon. He is the founder of Fractional Partners, and he's put together a Clarity Playbook that's going to knock your socks off. Yarin, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Matt and Luigi. I'm excited to be here.
What is the Clarity Playbook?
The Clarity Playbook is a private equity playbook that is open. So I made it public, that I'm trying to bring to companies that are too small for private equities to enjoy with. So if you get bought by a private equity, they would run some sort of playbook to increase the value of your company and to increase your EBITDA or your net profit. So instead of buying companies and gate it, I basically took the similar playbook and I made it open and DIY for 2 to $20 million companies, which are usually too small for private equity. So instead of selling your company and then having the private equity run the playbook, here's a playbook of how to increase your net profit and multiple. And you can do it with yourself. It's publicly open, or you can do it with me. But that's the idea of making sophisticated playbook a little bit more accessible.
Now, when you say 2 to $20 million
Yes.
companies, are we talking revenue-wise or EBITDA-wise?
Revenue-wise.
Okay. Because I'm going to say $2 million, private equity started coming downstream a lot recently.
Correct. That's the lower bar for lower market private equities.
Yeah.
$2 to $20 million. It's really around a maturity level. I go back and forth with the revenue. It can be 2 to 20, it can be 2 to 15, but it's almost like a maturity level where you have a business that works. It's still too risky for a sophisticated investor to buy into you, but there's something there. There's potential, there's clients, there's a team. There's something that if you can just tightening up a little bit, there's a lot of value that can get unlocked here.
What is the one factor that you find yourself tightening up the most? Namely, what is often not working on these smaller businesses?
Yeah. So I'll share with you let's talk about how businesses grow. So as you start a business 0 to 1, 0 to 2, your mode of operation is what I call growth by addition. It's all about adding stuff, adding more clients, adding more products, adding more revenue streams, adding more channels. It's really the idea of I don't really know what works. So I'm going to try a bunch of stuff and I'm going to see what sticks. And that's a perfect way to grow as you start, right? But what happens is you grow, and if you try to emulate that model as you grow after you found some sort of product market fit, and just for the listeners that don't know what product market fit is, when you found some success, when you have a machine that is starting to produce on a repeatable basis, usually at $2 to $20 million, maybe a little 2 to 10. If you try to keep growth by addition, here's what happened. You basically scale a very wide business. It does a lot of things, right? It has a lot of different customer types, a lot of different products, a lot of different channels. But here's the kicker. Profit is the average of all of your activities. Some of them produce a lot and some of them take away from your profit. And if you try to scale everything, a couple of things happen. It becomes very hard to manage. Imagine a business that serves multiple different types of customers. I have a B2B customer and I have a B2C customers. They require a very specific type of operation organization. If I have multiple type of products that maybe there's no synergy between them, scaling them, think of you at $2 to $20 million, you still have a small team, capital is still constrained. It's very hard to scale a very wide business. And what happens is either they become less and less profitable as they scale, they become more and more complex, and it just either they stop or they decline or they grind to a halt. Just hustle doesn't work at that scale. So before I continue, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Crystal.
So what happens is, or the better way that I believe to grow at that scale is to shift from growth by addition into a growth by subtraction. And it's not forever, but it's for now. So I'll explain what I mean by growth by subtraction. Growth by subtraction basically means something is working. I have product market fit. I have a product that people love to buy. I have a team that can execute because you've proven that you can produce sales. Now the question is, what is that 20% of the business that produces 80% of profit? Not revenue, because a lot of times people follow revenue, but profit, and profit is different. So idea here is, what is the one type of customer that I can focus on? What is the one type of product that I can focus on? What is the right one channel that I can focus on? And then what you do, you basically make less bets, right? You hyper allocate your resource into a smaller set of activities, right? I have one type of client, one type of revenue stream, one type of channel, and you become better at it. So you have more capacity to deploy to the stuff that actually moves the needle. And then you go and you do growth by subtraction. You keep growing by hyper focusing until you get to a point where your business is big enough to start exploring other parts or other type of clients or other parts of revenue streams or geographies. My thing is that people miss the step of growth by subtraction. They try to just grow by addition. Something is working. Can I create more locations? Can I create more products? Can I serve more clients? But their business model is not tight enough. So they're scaling an inefficient model, and it hurts them in the long term. So it's almost like this artificial shift where I'm going to hyper focus, I'm going to tighten my model until I get to a point where I'm big enough, usually at 40, 50, 60 million dollars, where I have enough capacity, both team and capital, to really explore growth by addition again. Pause, because this is a lot of concepts.
Yaron, I love what you're saying, and it's resonating. I can imagine you'll probably have a challenge when dealing with an entrepreneur, founder, business owner who tends to be type A, and you come in and say, we're going to tweak your business, we're going to make certain changes. How do you deal with that friction?
It's hard. It's really hard. I'll tell you why it's hard. And maybe some of the listeners are going to take this and just maybe I can open their mind. So what I found is when people scale or using a growth by addition model, they don't know that they're doing that. What they're feeling at the end of the day is friction in their business. So it looks like there's chaos. So they're trying to implement EOS or other project management tool. It feels like, oh, my cost of acquisition has gone up. I need another campaign, or my operations are messy, or my conversion is low. It manifests itself in these tactical symptoms that are a byproduct of not focusing and not choosing. So people don't really make that connection of, my conversion rate has gone down as we grow. Maybe I'm not focusing on a single segment. And that connection between strategy and operation doesn't really happen at that scale. There's a very tactical focus, because the people that are building these businesses they're great executors, they're great operators. They want to operate. So they want answers that are, what can I do now? And my answers is usually, what can you stop doing? And it's a shift that a lot of founders have a hard time grasping because they're just not wired that way. Does it resonate?
It's the grocery store with less SKUs because you need all this inventory if you have multiple SKUs.
Correct. It's like the difference between a Trader Joe's model and the regular grocery store, right? It's a hyper focus. One of the challenges is, beside the fact that they're feeling the pain, but they're attributing it to execution, right? I need to execute better. The other part of it is they have a hard time pausing. And this is what I found is the hardest part in this whole thing. Convincing founders to pause, because the whole thing that we're saying is let's optimize before we scale. And conceptually, that makes sense. But if I'm a founder that is a hustle-based founder that is used to like go, 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 and all of a sudden we need to go through a process where let's pause for a moment, not forever, just to realize like, where is EBITDA coming from? What are we doubling down on? What are we really worth doing, and what can we cut? That pause is what I found as the hardest part in bringing this to founders, even though they conceptually understand that they need it.
Yaron, theoretically, it's hitting a soft spot. So thank you for mentioning this. But it's theory right now, and it sounds like you went to the Chicago School of Economics.
Yeah, I did.
Can you give us some meat and potatoes, salt of the earth examples on how you've worked with companies, implemented your playbook, and how that business benefited?
Yes.
Please.
So let's talk about like, what is this playbook? Because right now it sounds like MBA bullshit, part of my language. Let's talk about how we bring this into actual founders of 2 to 20 million companies. Here's the thing. It's very simple. I believe that the key to fix this is create 3 sources of truth. It's 1-pager canvas. It's called the Clarity Canvas. There's a financial clarity canvas, strategic clarity canvas, and operational clarity canvas. And if you run the process of this playbook is basically answering the questions posed by the canvas. So let's kind of unpack what this means in practice. Step number 1, financial clarity canvas. We want to create a 1 source of truth that tells us as business owners, where is profit coming from truly today, and how efficient is my machine/business? What that means is not just what my P&L says, because P&L is a very weak tool to make decisions with, but more like going through a process of like, okay, what is my true profit after I take away all my personal business expenses that I dumped into my business to lower my taxes? And then what does my client look like? How many new clients I have? How much money do I get from new client? Not money, profit. New clients versus old returning clients. And then just understanding my revenue stream, which is the hardest thing that people rarely do. From everything I do, what produces the most profit? What produces the least margin? What produces the highest margin? What exists today that if I double down on can grow my bottom line? Just financial literacy in 1 canvas. So the activity is I have a canvas, financial clarity canvas, and we create this source of truth that allows us to start making some decisions. Step 1, understandable?
Clear.
Yes.
Step 2, which is the meat, is creating this source of truth that is called the strategic clarity canvas. 1 page with the entire business model on it. But when I say business model, it sounds really like elaborate. It's basically 18 questions that you just need to answer with you and your team and align on. And the questions are, who's my perfect customer? What are they truly trying to buy from me? What's preventing them from buying from me? What are my core competency or strategic advantages? So what do I do best than anybody else in the marketplace? What is the revenue stream that actually produces the most profit today? What is the revenue stream that exists that I want to double down on in the next 12 months? What revenue stream doesn't exist that I want to develop in the next 36 months? And then at the bottom, there are some like more specific questions like, how do I find customers, convert them, create an amazing experience, and make sure they come back? These are simple questions that business owners sometimes have in their mind, rarely have written, and rarely disseminated across the leadership team. So what I do when I start working with team, I start asking them, I run through a process of, I ask the same 40 questions for the entire leadership team, and I ask them to answer the same, or what they believe. And every time you can find areas where they're really cohesive and strong, an area where they're fuzzy. The areas where they're fuzzy is where profit leaks. That misalignment around who's our perfect customer, what do we do better than anybody else, what are we trying to optimize for, really? That's another big question. That's the misalignment is where you're basically taking all of your team, and if everybody's working on different things or have a different view of what you're building, inefficiency. So creating that one source of truth, one page that everybody can understand and align on is where the magic happens. So from everything that we're doing, how are we answering that question? That is the process where magic happens. So you have 5 different type of customers. Who's the perfect one? Once you go through a process, so the playbook is the canvas and a bunch of different plays or workshops that are open that you can run with your team to get to that answer. So I'm trying to take this MBA strategy and bring into, okay, this is a simple question, and here is a process of how to get to that answer. Once you have that answer, you create that third canvas, which is the operational clarity canvas, which is, okay, giving our strategy, quote unquote, what happens next quarter? What are we doing? But now it's grounded in a super tight understanding of what you're doing. Pause.
Yaron, when you're implementing this playbook with businesses, do you engage strictly with the founder operator, or do you ask also to engage the sales manager, operations manager, GM, foreman, whatever it may be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I started just working with the founder. And what I've learned is that it was doing them a disservice, because all of a sudden then the founder needs to come back to the team and convince them, or the team pushes back. So I switched it into a model where this is about stakeholders. This is who I work with. It's a founder, sometimes the founder's spouse, if they're super involved in the business, and the founder brings their core C-suite. Who do you make decisions with? Who has an input? Who do you need to align with you to make sure that this actually gets implemented in practice? Sometimes they even bring their investors, if they have some. The idea here that I want to take everybody that has a say, bring them into this discussion, pose a question, debate, then agree on one answer, put it in a canvas, and that's the truth for the next 12 months. Everybody aligned, and then we remove all these like side conversations. We're not opening the strategy again. It's baked for the next 12 months. Let's move into operation. Did I answer your question, Luigi?
Yes, thank you.
It's a different way. It's a different mindset, but this is what I feel.
So the first step is you go in, you get them clear on strategy, operations, and where they are financially, right?
Correct. That is the whole thing.
Then what do you do next?
Nothing. I help them. They execute. I believe that companies don't need me to play a part in their execution. So strong companies that have product that people love to buy, and as team, if you got to $2, $4, $5 million in sales, you can already execute. We can clean the org chart, which we do. We can put a scorecard in place. We can make the execution a little bit cleaner. But you don't need me to play your marketing officer or your CTO or your financial CFO. What you need is just, in my belief and my thesis, you need clarity, and I need to help you get some clarity on like, where is cash flowing? What business model are you really doubling down on? And then what needs to happen in the next 90 days? And then you go and you execute, and you meet me again when we need to create or refresh the canvas. So after a quarter, we need to create a new canvas for the next quarter. That's where you meet me. Once a year, when we need to refresh the financial canvas and we need to refresh the strategic, kind of tighten from what we've learned, that's where you meet me. But I'm not your coach, nor am I a part of your leadership team as you execute on a weekly basis. You don't need me for that, in my opinion.
So your background's from the venture capital world, right? You used to go in, work with distressed companies, try to turn them around.
Correct.
How many times did you go into a company and say, hey, there's a great team here, but they just have the wrong product?
Well, let's start by saying, this is a couple of things there. The companies that I work with, specifically the distressed companies, they have a different problem, that they didn't have product market fit. So for them, they had a team, they had a product, but the product wasn't hitting the mark. So the work there wasn't to optimize like we're doing now. The work there was to really try to reinvent the business, which is a much, much harder work than that I've never want to do again in my life. I don't want to reinvent the business. But there are so many companies that I work, because I also mentor about 400 different founders through University of Chicago and through SCORE, that I saw It's not that companies have if you are at two, three, $4 million, it's likely that that your product is hitting. It's not about having a wrong product. It's about having a wrong focus. So there's almost like this shiny object syndrome, where founders found some success, and then now they're saying, okay, so now what? What else can I do? And that is the risk. It's not that they don't have a good product, that they abandoned their core in search of something shinier or newer or a new segment or a new opportunity that doesn't connect with their original thing that brought them to where they are today. Does it resonate?
Yeah, makes sense.
It's a lot of theory and we're talking a lot about stuff. But again, just bring it down to the real talk. It's all about focus. If you have a $2 to $20 million business, something is working. Great. If you want to grow, then you need to change your mode of operation from what got you there is not going to get you here. Shift, hyper focus on what is truly unique, what is truly producing profit, double down on it, and then scale a very tight, narrow, strong business that it's the best at what he does in the world, much more attractive than scaling a business that is mediocre at everything it does. And you will be mediocre if you do too many things.
So basically what you're saying is I have a company, I sell widgets, right?
Yep.
Widget A, B, C, and D, right? Widget A, every time we sell widget A, we have a 90% profit margin, all the way down to a 50%, a 30%, and a 10%. You're saying get rid of everything else, just keep A where there's a 90% profit margin and keep rolling with it.
Yes, with the caveat that we want to identify what is the core competency. And the core competency is the term that is the most MBA term that people don't really understand, but it's also the most important thing to discover in a business. And I'll explain what I mean by that. When a business is established, what's a business? It's a bunch of people plus processes plus math. And when you get to a point where you have sales, you look at the sales and you think the sales comes from the widget, but the sales don't come from the widget. The sales come from your ability to sell the widget. So when a company is established, they have a know-how of how to do certain things. Maybe they have relationship with distributors. Maybe they have a special in with manufacturers that are enabling them to get the widget first to market. There is something about this. There a strategic advantage, or what we call the core competency, something that they know how to do extremely well that manifests itself in success. And before I can tell a company, just focus on widget A, I want to understand what makes this company unique. Is that their ability to connect with distributors? Is that their ability to connect with retailer? Maybe it's about the distribution and last mile. What do they know that other companies don't know, or that other companies will have a hard time trying to replicate? And then if you know what this is, going back to the clarity, and then you will ask the question, okay, should I remove widget A or remove widget B? Now you can start make an informed decision.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah? It's that thing that it's like, so what is your strategic advantage? It is a simple question, not easy to answer. But if you go through a process of answering it, it's almost like you have a filter in your mind. It's all about making filters that now you can judge decisions knowing, okay, I know that I'm very good at doing this. Forget about the widget. Very good. Should I go left or should I go right? Because you went through the process of kind of uncovering what do I do best, which is my perfect customer, what revenue stream do you want to focus. Because you went through the process, you paused for a moment and you almost step away from working in the business to working on the business. You looked at it from zoom out. All of a sudden you say, okay, I built a machine that knows how to do X. Widget A makes perfect sense. Or widget A makes no sense.
Yaron, you recently years ago, you ran an e-commerce business in Israel. Were you able to implement your playbook at that e-commerce firm?
No, I wish I had my playbook when I was running it. I started at 22, ranging from 22 to 29, I think. I was too young. I wished, so I built this playbook because this is what I wish I had when I ran my business. I wish I had someone like me that is a fractional partner that is not here to tell me how to do my job, but is here to tell me what is the more interesting business to build or what is the most profitable version of my businesses, and then let me do my job. I didn't have it. It took me 18 to 24 months to just develop this and the tools. There are 22 different modules that are available to help you get to these answers. There's the 3 canvases. There's a lot of work that went into this. I wish I had it. I would be significantly more profitable and more valuable if I had it.
What didn't work at that e-commerce firm? Did you have too many, going back to my analogy, too many SKUs?
I did not have too many SKUs. I was very narrow focused. I had a different problems that I did not relinquish control. So that was a different problem. It was mainly me. I hired low-level employees to do tactical work and not to actually help me think, and it hurt me. I built custom tech, which hurt me a lot when I exited it because that tech became debt because I was the only one that can operate it. So I learned that I was young. This was my 3rd business coming out of it. It was different than my other 2. Learned a lot. Trying to take this and kind of take that nuggets and bring it to other people.
Well, thank you.
So
as
can
an
you tell
American
everybody
entrepreneur,
where
we
they
appreciate it.
Yaron, we want to be respectful of your time, but before we end, can you tell everybody where they can find this framework, where they can go on the socials, on your website, so they can use it?
Yeah, it's playbook.fractional.partners. And if you go on the website, you go on our planning playbook, that's the first on the navigation. It's in Notion. I made it publicly open because I believe that knowledge should not be gated. Everything is there. What I deal with companies is because it's not about answering the questions, about the quality of answers. So what I do, my job is to help them act as their fractional partner and go and beside facilitating this, helping them answer these questions as if I was their partner. That's the whole idea. If I was your partner and if I had equity in your business, which I don't, but if I did, this is a segment that I would focus on. This is the revenue stream that I would focus on. This is how I view your core competencies. That's the whole idea. But for founders that don't need it or want it, take this, run it yourself. All the plays are there. All the workshops are there. The canvases are there. You can do it in Notion. You can do it in your retreat, your planning retreat. If you're using EOS, it sits on top of EOS. Basically replaces the vision traction organizer of EOS. Do it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. You have a pretty interesting story. So you moved to the United States to ski. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, I moved to the United States because I met an American girl that first moved to Israel for a couple of years and lived with me, but then we moved back to the States. So yes, we started in Chicago, and started in Chicago. I finished my MBA, and COVID started, and we were in Chicago in November. I don't know how many of you are in Chicago in November, December. It's really, you don't want to be in Chicago in November, December. Very gloomy, very gray. And kept talking about skiing. My wife was like, okay, to do something. So we broke the lease. We put everything in a storage unit. And we went on an 8-month-long road trip around the U.S. to see where we want to live that isn't Chicago. We sampled different cities. And we came, Salt Lake was one of them. And I loved it, and I got to experience what's like to have a season here and be a local. And I kept coming back until last year. We were living in Austin. Austin is very hot. We kept escaping Austin. Best time of year to be in Austin is winter. I don't want to be in Austin when I want to go skiing. So we ended up moving to Salt Lake City, and this is where I am now.
Awesome. Yeah. Yaron, thank you so much. Everybody, that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go.